In Smiley, after discovering an urban legend of a demented serial killer with nothing but a carved smiley on his face, a mentally fragile teenager must decide whether she is going insane or the next victim.
You called in to report a murder. Maybe two, you don't know. All these murders were performed by the same guy, this, Smiley.
You called Smiley and he came. Something's been awakened, like something's been born.
He chased me and he got me and he ripped my shirt.
This never happened.
What if he comes for the people who call him? Have you thought about that?
Everything's gonna end.
Smiley is a feature film from Michael Gallagher of Totally Sketch on YouTube, and while I don't watch Totally Sketch, I feel a connection to this just because it's a fellow YouTuber's feature-length film. And whether you like it or not, whether the movie is good or bad, to go from YouTube to a legitimate movie, I mean, this is a movie. It's 90 minutes, it's got a story, it's the whole package, is, I think, impressive. So good for him right off the bat. However, I will say I think it's only fair to look at this movie as a movie, not as a YouTube to movie, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm going to look at it as if I had no idea that this was something that came from YouTubers. That being said, the movie has some pros, and it also has some cons, and unfortunately I think it's got more cons than pros, but I do think it had potential, and I think that the people behind it have potential to do better things in the future. To be fair, it's got a cool villain, but I think it's got some iffy writing. It had some good acting, but it had some bad acting, and overall, like I said, I do think that this time around, the cons outweighed the pros, but let's get more in depth with Smiley, starting off with the plot and the writing, which I think this is one of the rougher parts of the movie. As far as the plot goes, it's kind of like Cry Wolf meets Nightmare on Elm Street, or you could say Scream meets Nightmare on Elm Street, sort of in that vein, and they threw in some internet-related stuff, like the origin of this killer is supposed to be from 4chan, and I have to say that I thought a lot of these kind of references, a lot of internet-related references were really, really awkward. They felt just unnatural and forced, which is really, really weird to me because these people are internet people, you know what I mean? It felt like someone who's been on 4chan, but doesn't really go on 4chan often, if you catch my drift. Like, I don't think anyone from 4chan is gonna like this movie at all. In fact, I think they're gonna hate it because it's almost like ruining inside jokes in a way. So I thought that was weird because with these people that do stuff on the internet, I would have expected it to be the opposite, but it was, yeah, it was definitely kind of awkward. On the flip side, some of the writing is actually really good, specifically any scenes with the teacher, like in the classroom and stuff like that. There's one scene that's actually fantastic, and that is the scene in which they discuss how humans might be what's necessary for something else to develop. I thought it was pretty chilling, actually. It was really, really cool. But then you've got people saying, like, I did it for the lulz throughout the movie, and it's really just awkward, and it does not feel natural, and yeah, I don't know. It was weird. Directing-wise, like I said, I do think that the people who made the movie have potential to do better things in the future, and I think that this kind of fluctuated as well, like the writing did. Some parts were done well, some parts were not done well. I do think the ending was dragged out a little bit too much, but other than that, the movie was paced well. I think it looked really good, except for a couple of parts that I think were maybe overly lit. And it did have a lot of cheap scares, and by cheap scares, I mean, you know, a character jumping into frame saying something mundane like, "Hey, Mom, what's for dinner?" And I think the main issue is that the tone was kind of weird and confusing because, for the most part, it was dead serious, mostly. But it felt like it should have been funnier than it is. Like, it almost should have been more self-aware, and it wasn't at all. And I think it really would have benefited from being kind of a horror comedy more than just a straight horror, which it really was. There were obviously some jokes and stuff, but for the most part, it was really taking itself seriously as a scary movie, and I think that is something that kind of dragged it down a bit. But like I said, I thought the villain himself was cool, and I could see somebody wearing that kind of costume for Halloween, for real. And I did think all the teacher scenes were really good, especially that one specific scene was excellent, and that is why I think that they have potential to do something better in the future, because I do think a lot of people are going to watch this movie and not like it, especially if they go on 4chan a lot. But unless the people who made the movie think it's just absolutely perfect, hopefully they will learn from it. Being YouTubers, they're used to criticism and comments and stuff, so I'm sure that they will take it to heart and will, you know, come up with something better in the future. I really do think they might. And as far as the acting goes, there are some YouTubers in this movie, and then there are some regular actors in this movie, and you might be shocked, as I am shocked, when I tell you that I actually thought the YouTubers were, for the most part, better than the regular actors. Now, it might be because I thought that the main two girls were bad, especially the side girl. I thought she was terrible. and maybe that made Shane Dawson, Toby Turner, those guys look better, but I think it's honestly because they are used to being natural on camera and being themselves, and they were kind of just playing regular people in the movie, and they felt very, very natural, and I was shocked. I really was. Not to say I think they're bad in general, but, you know, going from YouTube to a movie, it's different. And so I have to say, good for them, but I will say that the best in the movie, in my opinion, was the teacher, Roger Bart. I think that he was excellent. I think the writing in those scenes with him was great. I think the directing was really good, and he was really great, and so it all came together to make him really awesome. But like I said, regardless of the connection of me being a YouTuber and these guys being YouTubers, I do have to look at it fairly, and as a movie, I think there were more cons than pros this time around, but I do think that there is potential for these guys to do something better in the future, and I wouldn't be surprised if I see some Smileys running around this Halloween, because he is a pretty cool-looking villain. And that's all I have to say about Smiley, so let me know in the comments what you thought of Smiley. Did you think it was terrible? I totally understand. Like I said, I do think that a lot of people are not going to like this movie, but hopefully you can appreciate the things that I said, because I do think there were some good things to it. Let me know if you frequent 4chan. Did you hate this movie? I think that even they would have to accept if people from 4chan despise this movie, because it does, in a way, kind of feel almost like it's killing inside jokes, sorta, somewhat. Also, make sure you let me know what you thought of the acting, the YouTubers versus the regular actors, and let me know what you thought of the teacher and that one scene. Let me know anything that you want about Smiley, and that's pretty much it.
I just want to stop.
Stop trying to find out what it is. You're bringing it to us.
Are you in the wrong end of some kind of prank?
Smiley's trying to kill me.